Hello, fight fans. Ngannou, Mike, Fights with Friends here. Everybody, please hit that like button. I said hit that like button. I said hit that. There you go. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed and double tap that notification bell so you're notified every time we drop a new video or go live, like next week's doubleheader. Friday, we got Eagle FC 44. Saturday, we got a big Bellator card, their first card of the year. But guys, right now, we need to talk about the relationship between the UFC and Francis Ngannou. More importantly, now it's become the relationship between Dana White and Francis Ngannou, because what Dana White did last night, I was very perplexed. I have seen Dana be emotional. I know he's had grudges against fighters, carried grudges against fighters in the past, said some non-complimentary things about fighters that had rubbed him the wrong way. And, there's several examples of why you don't want to get on the boss's bad side. He can take some things personal, and I don't know that I've ever heard him apologize to a fighter. Guys, it needs to happen now, though, because when Francis Ngannou defended his heavyweight championship last night, there's been 2 times that I can think of since Dana White started doing it that he did not put the belt around the waist of the champion. Both of them were heavyweight championship fights. Both of them involved Francis Ngannou. The first one, of course, was when Stipe Miocic defended his belt the first time against Francis. The UFC seemed to really be propping up Francis. Stipe even came in an underdog to the bout. And you're talking about Stipe Miocic, the fighter with the most heavyweight defenses ever. They had him coming in as an underdog. So he felt slighted. He had one of his trainer or cornermen put the belt around him. Didn't let Dana White touch it, and Dana White, I guarantee you he was not pleased. I think that that ended up leading to him not getting the immediate rematch against Daniel Cormier, when Daniel Cormier ended up fighting Derek Lewis in between. Eventually Stipe would get that match, though, and I hope eventually Dana White apologizes to Francis Ngannou, because Saturday night was the second time it happened. Francis Ngannou did nothing to deserve this, but look who is behind Francis Ngannou, putting the strap around him, but Mick Maynard. As far as I know, first time Mick Maynard has ever put a belt around someone's waist. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it's the first time I've ever seen Dana White not at a pay-per-view press conference. He was at the Fight Night press conference last week for Kattar versus Chikadze. I got to say, I was very surprised. Like I said, I'm not only surprised by as much as a lot of other people by things that Dana White does. This really surprised me. This was completely unprofessional. I felt it was, not only personal. Dana's been personal in the past. I don't feel he's generally unprofessional. I know a lot of people disagree with me. And I felt that this was immature, childish, and unfair. I do believe that most of the time Dana White tries to be fair. Some people might disagree with that, but I think he makes a concerted effort to be fair, to the fighters, and especially, from fighter to fighter. Some people talk about, the Dana White privilege, as Tony Ferguson brung up. Of course, Conor McGregor getting, preferential treatment, but that's because he sold more pay-per-views than anybody ever. That's not really surprising. But when you got Dana White saying he had a good talk with Francis Ngannou when he talked to him for the first time in 4 months, when he'd met with him for dinner, what happened in between that dinner and this fight that Dana White was so upset that he would not put the strap around Francis Ngannou's waist? Not only that, he didn't show up at the press conference. I think he underestimated how big of a deal this is to us and other fighters. Israel Adesanya immediately came out and said fighters are behind Francis Ngannou. We stand with him. Ike Valley Flag, I seen on Twitter, former UFC fighter, reached out in support, of Francis Ngannou and in support of fighter pay. I kind of feel like Dana White, for one thing, I feel like he has to apologize. Not only does he owe Francis Ngannou an apology, I think to get him back, he has to apologize. Whether that's public or not, whether that, we end up being privy to that conversation or not, most likely not. But I feel he has to make that apology. And I also think I think he backed himself up into a corner to where he has to either sign Francis Ngannou or, and I hope he doesn't do this, but he has to highlight something wrong that Francis Ngannou did, or Francis Ngannou has to make a mistake. There were a lot of people split on the way this was going, and I may have seen more fighters in favor of the UFC and Dana White, honestly. They were like, okay, well, if you sign the contract, if you don't like, what's being offered, go elsewhere. Maybe something happened behind the scenes that we don't know about. I'd like to know what that is, but I feel like now, like Dana White's got the attention of everyone, and whatever leverage he had publicly, he threw it all in the toilet last night. Because now, pretty much everyone is on Francis Ngannou's side. I think it was a great thing to happen for Francis Ngannou. I'm sure he didn't feel great about it at the time. But in hindsight, he may, and it may pressure the UFC even more to say, hey, we got to sign Francis Ngannou. We got to make this right. This was embarrassing. This was unprofessional. This is not how we should treat our fighters. It's not how we should treat our fans. Fans are left in the dark saying, why wasn't Dana White there putting the belt around his waist? And another thing with the post-fight press conference, fight fans are very loyal. I know that there were a lot of people that would have been in bed after the fights, except for they were staying awake for the post-fight press conference. And then when Dana White wasn't there, a lot of people like to see him there. A lot of fans like to see him there. What about the media? The media usually has some questions for Dana White. I like the playful banter that he's had with some of the reporters. Lately, I thought we were getting a more relaxed, jovial Dana White this year. And this was just the complete 180. So like I said, this caught me completely off guard. Not the discourse between him and Francis Ngannou. Everybody knew it was there. I did not think he would stoop to that level. And I did not think he would basically come out and say, hey, everybody look at me. I'm the smaller person. I'm going to be the smaller guy in that. I'm going to let Francis Ngannou be the bigger guy, whatever happens after this, whether he goes to boxing or tries to come back with us. I'm going to be the smaller person. Huge mistake, in my opinion. And I think he owes Francis Ngannou an apology. I think he owes the media an apology. And maybe a little bit probably the fans. And the only other time I believe I've said that was when an event moved from Las Vegas to California because of John Jones' famous pulsing incident, and they had to move an entire event, including all the fans, on a week notice across state lines. I just think, and it's poor timing with the pay-per-view price increase. I know Dana White says that only has to do with ESPN, but it's like, are you trying to be the bad guy? Are you all of a sudden trying to, kind of procure this image like a Vince McMahon? Because I don't think this works with the UFC. I really don't. And it seemed like Dana was kind of starting to lean the other way. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, though. Does Dana White owe Francis Ngannou an apology? Should he have been there to put the strap around Francis Ngannou's waist? How much of the rhetoric and everything behind the scenes do we not know, and was Dana White possibly justified in doing this? Let me know what your comments are down there below. And do you want to see Francis Ngannou come back to the UFC? Do you want to see him go box? Or do you care? What would you like to see? Let me know down there in the comments. As always, I love you. I respect you. And I'll see your fine asses next time.